Kenny, was it a tough call for Miles to go in for surgery? Obviously wanted to push on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I assume that any situation that you're in and it's difficult to concede, that you don't want to keep playing, it's a tough decision. And but the right thing for his long-term future, which is at Port Adelaide, is to make sure he's in best shape he can be for the start of pre-season.
Is there something in the weekend?
Sorry?
Is there something in the weekend?
Well, I've just had a cup of tea and I'm hoping I get injured. No, it's just what happens. Some footy seasons are just full of injury, and and it's not just the number of injuries; it's the injuries and the type of injuries you get. Like we've had this year, having had young Benny Barrett also have syndesmosis surgery this week. We've had 18 surgeries since January. Well, that's a really big number. It's collision, and they're collision injuries. They're really unfortunate injuries. You can't do much about them, but that's just what happens sometimes in footy seasons.
Is that your most that you can recall since you've been here?
I think, look, to be honest, Matt, I think we had 1 year worse. It might have been 21 or something. We had 21 surgeries in season. Well, what I call in seasons from January to end of the season. I think it might have been 21, and that might have been in the early 20s. So we've had our share, but most clubs do.
Besides losing his compass, what was restricting Miles? Because he hadn't played with that shot.
Yeah, I think the reality was each game he plays, it would probably progressively get a little bit worse for him to deal with and handle. And it didn't take too much to take a knock on it that would then flare it up a little bit more and then have to settle down. And so, look, as much as anything, it's a mental challenge for a player to have a shoulder injury and then you have to go there and play inside mid or on some of the best midfielders in the competition. Miles done a great job to get to that point.
Is it safe to say, though, if the season was still alive, he'd still be pushing through?
Yep, I think that's reasonable. I think that's absolutely reasonable. I'm not going to sit here and make it up any other way. If the season was still a finals opportunity for us, Miles would want to, not us, Miles would want to, I'm sure, continue to push really hard, and we have to sometimes protect them from themselves, and this is one of those times.
What about Conor Rosen? Is he going to keep pushing through that hand?
Yeah, that's a more manageable issue. It's not sounds silly, it's not a major deal because he's been able to train with it now and play with it in a game, and it will be sore for another week or two probably before it probably goes right away, but he's capable of playing and everything else is okay.
Can externally, no one's giving you a chance externally, the venue, the team that they're in, the state that you're in.
If you're doing the form, it's a reasonable form.
So how's the group getting through a week to believe that they're going to continue to not only be competitive but to win?
Yeah, I think I said it after the last game. I think the opportunity for us now as a club and for our players is to embrace every opportunity to get to play AFL football. And there's no bigger challenge, as you said, than Geelong is Geelong. And our players should go down there looking for an opportunity to perform at their absolute best, challenge Geelong and beat Geelong. If we can do that, that would be great. And for a lot of the players who play, just imagine what they could get out of a game like Geelong if they were able to perform really well and challenge them big time and potentially beat them. That would be a great little confidence for some young people who will play football, against a really experienced side.
Is there a thought, a temptation, a need to say, well, let's try some things out already for next year, see players in different roles?
I think we've been doing that. I think we've been doing that a bit. I think we've been, even with Miles going into the midfield, kind of going half back. We've been prepared. Even Das last week went down back again. We're not shy to move the magnets, and we're certainly open to exploring some of those options for us in the remaining 4 games to see what we have got that can help us for 2026.
The interesting one is someone like Whitlock, who people want to see, but
people want to see
play. But you make always don't put someone in there to set them up for failure. So
yeah.
How's that balancing out going forward, seeing him this year?
I think now's a great time to have that conversation a little bit more and go, okay, well, the upside versus the downside. The upside might get in front, at this stage of the season. So you might go, oh, okay, and Jack and Rammy, who's also another young tall defender who have played in the SANFL in the last few weeks and played really good footy. Well, when you've got availability quite low, that's when you can, your potential to explore some youth ahead of time is not necessarily off the table.
You talked about learning from last week and the form lines going in Geelong and Crows probably got blown away. We did get blown out in the second half. Is that something that you can tough
Oh, I hope so. I think that's our challenge, is to try and play at a level that we can be proud of and be comfortable that we play a certain way that gives us a chance against any opposition. You know, last week was really disappointing. Clearly, we've spoken about that and done it to death against a quality side, and we come up against another one this week. So, can we improve? Can we learn a little? And can we make sure that we're much more competitive and give ourselves a chance to win?
Can you stop here, Cameron? Yeah. How do you stop him?
We did a pretty good job last time to a point, but then he exploded in the last quarter, I think, maybe, and kicked 3 or 4 goals. So he ended up with 7, maybe. I reckon most teams are struggling to stop him, totally. The restriction is probably a better word than stop, and if we can restrict Jeremy a little bit, and most of the Geelong team, because they're again a top 4 side who are going to be right there at the end of the season. So great learnings for some of our players. Though.
He's chasing 100, Ken. Do you think that Geelong's probably going to be targeting him a little bit more than they already do?
It's not the way AFL footy's played now. Jeremy's good enough to keep chasing the target, I'm sure, but I'm not coaching Geelong. Chris would take care of that and do what they need to do, but it doesn't strike me as something that Geelong do.
You love attacking play. This weekend aside, would you love to see someone kick 100 for the first time in 7
Yeah,
years?
no, I would, as long as he doesn't get many against us. Is that okay? Can I answer it like that? Like, Jez is a great player, and he has been. You know, it'd be great for footy. I think it'd be outstanding for football to see 100 goals kicked again in the game, and I think that's showing us what offence is starting to become again. Offence is starting to typically get on top, I reckon, during this last couple of seasons, and this year more than ever. I think the top sides are really quite damaging when they go, as we've seen last week. You know, we've seen Hawthorn the week before. You know, I watched Brisbane, I watched Geelong, Collingwood, Fremantle. They're all getting going with their offence, and scoring's a bit higher.
You played within your path yourself. What are you telling your players about how to deal with it? Because it's rather strange.
You lose your memory a little bit as you get older.
Forget that.
It's been a long time since I played at Cardinia Park. All I know is what everyone else knows. It's a bit skinnier. Teams seem to kick it out in the full. That's fact. We talk about it most times when we go down there, and I think they've been I think we all respect them for what they've been for a quarter of a century now. They haven't been a bad side at any stage during the 2000s. I think they've just been an amazing side. So take the ground away, they're just a hard challenge.
Jason Horne-Francis said on radio today that the effort levels have definitely fluctuated in games this year and led to some of those blowouts. I realise there's been a bunch of injuries, obviously, but have you got to the bottom of why that has perhaps been the case this year as opposed to some of your other years? I think you've had 3 of your club's 13 largest ever blowouts this year.
Couldn't you talk about something a bit more positive, Matt, for me? Or no, look, we've gone through every one of those games, and we don't like, obviously, having those type of results, and I certainly don't enjoy as a coach having those types of results for the team more than history, because that's just not what we've been in the past. But look, we've had our challenges this year. We've been overrun too many times, and our challenge is now in the remaining 4 games to try and do something about that if we can, and try and get ourselves in the battle a little bit more often, and then be willing to stay in the battle a little bit more often. We've been opened up badly from a scoring point of view, and I think that's because we're not quite at the same level that we've been on a connection piece around team defence, I would have thought.
Apart from the young guys, who else is in the frame to potentially come in from
Well, we've got some experience down there with Finlayson and Rioli, those type of players who are down there. Atkins has announced his retirement this week, so there's a number of experienced players, and I think that's, if possible, we could lean on a little bit of that, but we're also got to balance what's next, and I'm really mindful of doing that as best we possibly can for the club's future.
How is Lily going? Willie?
Well, I actually haven't spoken to him this morning, but he's going reasonably well. He's got a bit going on still, which some personal stuff that goes on with Willie that's something I'm not going to talk about, but the reality is he's been training fully for now the last couple of weeks. I think that's given him the best chance to play AFL football, and if we choose to do that this week, that will be a pretty positive outcome for us to have his quality back in the team.
What about, just a word on Ratt, obviously retiring?
Yeah, look, we only had him for a short period of time, and I can't be any more than full of compliments for him, the way he came to our footy club and the way he inducted himself into the club, because he's the challenge of coming to Port Adelaide, third club, but he is one of the spirit players of our club this year. He brings great energy, and whatever I ask him to do, whether that's travelling emergency and not play, whether that's actually getting a game only a couple of times for the or play as a leadership player in the sample, he's been a credit to himself. But more importantly, he did this himself this week. He reflected on his journey. It's been an amazing journey. I think he was pick 81. You know, to get what he's got out of his AFL career, he should be really proud, and his family should be really proud of him.
Just a sort of mystery, what was he pulled out at half time last week?
Well, because we always keep one out at half time. Yeah, stock standard. We look after a player and make sure in case someone gets a late injury, we've got someone there that can sit on the bench as a sub. But I'm hearing that sub will go out next year, so we won't have to worry about that.